The question of who is well off, who has it made, question that has occupied the human race for quite some time, and especially its greatest thinkers, is something that affects us all. And Jesus had some things to say about that. Jesus was a thinker. He did actually think some things, and I mean the Jesus. And yet, his statement about who is well off has been routinely taken out of its context. It's like we forget that he said some things before that, and he said some things after that, and he was a certain kind of person. And therefore, it's possible that we've really never understood what he was after in those very, very familiar passages we know as the Beatitudes. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb, better known as Mike. Yeah, I'm still saying that. This is Conspiracy Commentaries. Conspiracy, The Divine Conspiracy by Dallas Willard is the book that we use for these. And if you don't know this already, we look at this book together in a strange way. We read it painfully slowly, just one section at a time. We're already in the 4th chapter, and this is, I think, the 5th year that I have been doing these. So it's that slow. We've only managed... we haven't even managed 100 pages yet. So you get the picture. Chapter 4, a section called Teaching from the Context. And Dallas Willard has been trying to convince us, or he will be trying to convince us, that we have, for 2,000 years, more or less not understood what Jesus was saying in the beginning of his greatest sermon. This is where Jesus launches into, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." And there's 8 of those in Matthew and then in Luke. And Dallas Willard says, we've basically taken them out of context. That's what he's going to be saying in this section here. Now, in the last video, which you should also make sure you have watched, he has a different argument, and it's just going to keep going here throughout this chapter. Unfortunately, not terribly well structured. Maybe it's a good essay, but I, for my money, think that he should have written something more scholarly, because I think he just confused a lot of people. And that is something to be said, that his view, he just accepts this, is kind of rare. He knows that he's going against the flow with this. But nevertheless, put it in context. And there are 3 things that I see in this section that I want to highlight for you. First, Dallas is pointing out that there is a social context, that before chapter 5 in Matthew, Jesus is going around Galilee, and he is hurting people of all sorts, and he is healing them. And then he starts talking to them. And we forget sometimes that that's the group of people that are being addressed in the Beatitudes. Dallas Willard says, this is the crowd. This is not a fancy bunch. This is a pretty rough group of people. It's not an esoteric secret handshake group that Jesus is addressing. Now, Dallas Willard says that Jesus is doing show and tell. He thinks he's grabbing people, maybe not grabbing them, but saying, here, mourning people, you're blessed too. And here, pure in heart people, you're blessed too. I think that's probably a bit of an exaggeration. His point, Dallas's point, is that Jesus is dealing with real cases. But it's really hard to see if somebody is poor in spirit or meek or whatever. Maybe Jesus conducted interviews. Or whatever. He's God, so he, sees what's in people's mind and hearts. Maybe. But at any rate, that's what Dallas Willard thinks, that there are like these cases of people that Jesus knows, and he's saying, you too are blessed. But at any rate, pretty rough group. Second thing that Dallas is saying in this is that there is an intellectual context. So the Beatitudes aren't the first thing that Jesus says. You have to go back and you see that he is talking about the kingdom of God in a very particular way, a gospel way. Good news. Hey, I've got something really good to tell you about the kingdom of God. Dallas puts it like this. We should assume that his teaching in the Beatitudes is a clarification or development of his primary theme in this talk and in his life, the availability of the kingdom of the heavens. And then on the other side, too, now where was this? There were directly before him those who had just received from the heavens through him. So Jesus is in the middle of something, actually, here when he talks about the Beatitudes. And he has just said that the kingdom of God is available. And the Beatitudes are a way of saying, therefore, this is what's true about who is well off, who is blessed, who has it made. It's a part of a thought, The third thing that Dallas Willard is arguing here or pointing out here, unfortunately, is not stated, at least not stated very well. But I can tell you, as somebody who knows Dallas Willard quite well, this is in his mind, okay? And that is that people are responding in faith, okay? There is a salvation context here, and Jesus is calling people to trust him, to trust in the gospel, to get new life from above. And we have this theological word, regeneration, new birth for that. These are people who have been already invited to live in the kingdom. And the word that we tend to use for that, or it's certainly connected, is faith. Now, Protestants have kind of put their money on this thing called justification by faith. And that's a lot of what Dallas Willard is after here. Unfortunately, he just doesn't say it, and he won't really be saying it throughout this chapter. And I think that's a bit of an issue here. It could have been said better. At any rate, in the last video, we talked about what are the criteria for being blessed. And the traditional interpretation has said, well, the Beatitudes are a list, of 8 conditions that you should meet in order to be blessed. And then I ended the video with this kind of like, but Dallas Willard thinks that the criteria for being blessed is, and the answer is faith. Faith. These are people who have accepted this good news that Jesus is preaching. And therefore, something else is true about who has the good life. It's as if Jesus is saying, if you accept the Bible, yours is the kingdom of heaven. And then it doesn't matter if you are poor in spirit or mourning or meek. Lots of good things that come with that kingdom are going to happen to you. If you accept the gospel, then yours is the kingdom of God. That's kind of the way that Dallas Willard is doing this. He's hanging this on faith. And there's I've already trusted Jesus, and therefore I am well off. I have the kingdom of God. But then there's also this offer of, if you come with me, if you accept the gospel, then you can be well off. You can live in the kingdom of God, and it doesn't matter if you are on this list. It doesn't matter if you aren't on this list, because the criteria is faith. Well, I hope that helps you, and we're going to probably return to it in other sections here, but that's what I see in this section and what Dallas Willard is doing. And I hope that some of you out there perhaps might be seeing this for the first time and really hearing what Jesus has to say. And awesome. I will see you next week. Bye.